Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. We've reached postmodernism. So the Second World War, with all of its horrors, has ended, and we're going to be moving towards the present day. Taking a look at postmodernism, we can see here some of the key events to the left. Beginning at the top, that's the Berlin Wall. What's the significance here? Shows the division of Europe into East versus West. And of course, the Soviet Union, right? Communism, the Soviet Union today has fallen, but it was a very deciding factor in postmodernism, led to the Cold War. That's the picture there of the children at elementary school. And you're wondering, hey, Mr. K, are they preparing? Are they doing like a tornado drill? And the answer is no. That's a drill for the atomic bomb. That's when the threat of atomic warfare was very, very real. There was the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs, all of those things regarding the Cold War. Then things heated up, and Vietnam was a big, big part of postmodernism, as well as the civil rights movements. So when we talk about postmodernism, I know that this is a literature class, but it was much more encompassing. There's cultural, intellectual, as well as the visual arts. We'll see some examples there as well. So it's not just limited to literature. So that's one of its characteristics. Another of its characteristics is skepticism towards grand narratives. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. What do we see? We see a rejection of absolute truths in postmodernism. The fragmentation that we saw beginning in modernism continues, and in some essence, it just becomes louder. And that's a good way to understand what postmodernism is. It's like modernism, but amplified, but louder. Also, we're going to talk about irony as well as self reflexivity. That's a pretty cool word. We can watch for modernism to embrace subjectivity as well as ambiguity and paradox. What is subjectivity? That's when you provide the audience, the reader, with your perspective. You know, you filter things through yourself. Ambiguity, the first part of that word, ambi, is the same as ambidextrous. If you're ambidextrous, you can write with both hands. So ambiguity, a sense of mystery, with things not being certain. And of course, we all know what paradox is. Then the last one, these we can watch for postmodernism to challenge established conventions and explore themes of globalization, consumerism, technology, and identity. And if some of these things with postmodernism sound familiar, that's because, yeah, we're still living in postmodernism today. Some people may argue that we've possibly entered into another era, maybe millennialism, right? Because we started a new century, but it's always kind of hard to define and label an era when you're in it. So let's go ahead and jump and talk about skepticism towards grand narratives. What a grand narrative is, it's part of, say, for example, every religion. The grand narrative of Christianity is that, you know, due to the fall of Adam and Eve, everyone is born with original sin and they're doomed. They're bound for damnation unless they seek redemption through the figure of Jesus Christ, who will ultimately return again and bring a new peace to the earth. And another example would be in America. You can come to America without, with very little money. work hard, and achieve success. Those would be examples of grand narratives. We're going to look to see that postmodern authors are rejecting these overarching narratives that claim to provide universal truths or meanings. So let's stop to think about that. If we're rejecting a claim for universal truth or universal meaning, what does that mean? There is no universal truth. There is no universal meaning. And the skepticism towards grand narratives, we're going to have a lot of questions being brought about regarding the authority of traditional historical accounts and challenges to the idea of progress. And we could kind of see this with America in our own lives, right? For example, when Columbus Day has been, some places don't celebrate Columbus Day, or they change the name of Columbus Day to reflect that, right? So we're challenging historical accounts as well as that idea of progress. So we're going to watch for plurality and diversity, many different viewpoints of truth. And this comes about from subjectivism, right? That idea of subjectivity, because everybody's providing their own viewpoint, right? And everybody's viewpoint is true to that person. So we end up with the plurality, many, many different truths, right? I know things start to get really, really crazy as the further that we kind of get deeper into the course. Now, before with modernism, we touched upon fragmentation and we defined it. It's going to continue, it's only going to get amplified. So we can watch for these works to continue to exhibit fragmentation, right? Things not fitting together, discontinuity, and the breakdown of traditional structures and values continues. The hierarchies and fixed categories, we're going to see them torn apart even further. Will continue to embrace ambiguity and multiplicity because we have all these puzzle pieces and we really can snap and put them together for ourselves. And we're going to continue to take a look at postmodernism in the next lecture.